Hello, guys. Welcome. I'll introduce my guest in just a second. But what you're looking at now, come in. What you guys are looking at now is info about the critical race theory movement. This is a movement. It's not a curricula. It's not a lesson. It's not just a friendly, innocuous theory. It is a movement. Is it Black Lives Matter? I mean, we saw strong elements of that. And yes, right? But here it is. In fact, BLM had this up on their website. They had this up on their website until people started to raise hell. They took it down. Critical race theory movement seeks to destroy and demonize families with fathers, straight people, anyone that believes in God, capitalism, merit, and gender. Okay, that sounds to me like Marxism. I don't know, maybe I'm nuts, I don't know. But what do you think? What do you think? Adina Safta is with us. She is an expert on this. She's going to take us through this. She is also running for office. As we close, we're going to learn more about that. But Adina, you and I have been talking about this over this weekend. You're on fire about this. What did you think of the slide I just put up there?
Yeah, well, it just boils down to destroying traditional families. And when you think about, the 1960s and Marxism, you're correct. You think about Karl Marx, and I mean, you look at, I don't know if you saw the chart that I shared on my social media, but it basically, that was the essential goal, is to take God out of the equation with families. So, say no to the Bible, like no God. And then when you do that, you eliminate anything related, you separate moms and dads. So, the feminist movement was added too, where the women felt like they were so empowered, but so suppressed that the families, were divided. And then everything else that you listed on there, it was just promoting abortion, promoting divorce, making things easy, where there was no commitment, no need to stay with somebody. And the capitalist factor, absolutely. The way that you destroy a family is you destroy the economy. So in a market, like in a world like ours, right? Like in a free market, capitalist society that we get to live in America, if you take that away from a family, what happens? There's divorces, there's all sorts of issues that arise from that. And it was all a part of the plan. You destroy the economy, you destroy the traditional family, you take God out of it, and the rest, just is a kind of a domino effect.
And so you have an accent. So you tell us your background. Where are you from? How do you know so much about communism, Adina?
Well, so I was born in Romania, the year of the revolution, but Romania was communist when I was born there. And so I tell people, like, I grew up in a post-communist society where you don't get to even go to McDonald's. Like, McDonald's was a 5-star restaurant for somebody that lives in a post-communist society. You go to school, I mean, the education, like, teachers are empowered to hit children, I mean, you basically, in a post-communist society, you every single day live in fear, whether it's fear of what happens in schools and the things that teachers, have power trips and can do whatever they want. And the problem with that is parents also basically surrender their kids to the school system because they think that, well, the teachers are the ones with the power. So the parents don't even step up to the plate where my parents did, hence why we're in America. But the things that you see as a child, I mean, when I came here, I was like, oh my gosh, everybody's going to get beat up in school, because why is nobody like in like a communist state where they're like, if my back is not straight, the teacher's going to hit me in the back, and it's just living every day in fear, who wants to do that? And that's what we're doing here. We're living in fear. So everything from the education system there to just everyday living and having access to things that we do here. And it's because of capitalism. So growing up in a post-communist society, like, we realize how important freedom is and how quickly we can lose it. For some reason in America, people think we're just like a communist repellent. We've been taught that it's like, it can never come here. Well, it's here, like, it's right here. It's, it's in our country. And if we don't do something about it now, we're going to lose our freedom.
Well, absolutely. So how do we know that it's here? Let me take you back to this slide in case you're just joining us. This is what's going on inside of our schools. Families with fathers are demonized. I'll be able to prove that point in just a second with a couple of slides I'm going to show you. Straight people are demonized. You know, when you start teaching about transgenderism, and they're teaching it now, Adina, in the kindergarten classes, when you start teaching that God makes mistakes, right? He didn't choose your gender correctly, etc. You know, that is an affront. We know that to actually believers, right? And so how do we get here? 2019, here's how it started. Everything's cool, hunky-dory, so we thought, right? Everything's chill, whatever, and how it's going. How it's going, right? You know, BLM, etc. And so again, the movement teaches that there are only two types of people. Now, I just told you that, hey, it's time to destroy Christians, whites, men, etc. Don't take it from me. Let's look at this. This has been given in a high school class in, I believe, Johnston County, but it's, by the way, this is no means exhaustive. We've gotten this particular graph from a couple of different schools, but this is a matrix of oppression. And this is telling you that everything on the right-hand side, if you are on the far right-hand side here, you are the penultimate, man. This is who they want. But if you're on the far left side in the privileged social groups, you are to be exiled, stigmatized, and canceled. Again, white people, biological males. There you go. Gender conforming biological males and women, whatever the hell that means. Heterosexual people, rich upper class, temporarily able-bodied people. My back is out, Adina. Maybe I can be omitted on this, right? Protestants, well, I got to break there too. I'm Jewish, so I'm cool. And then adults, all right? So all of these categories is exactly what we were telling you here. To demonize this, how do they do it? They will give you, Adina, in class. There you have this classroom exercises, and you just saw it with your own eyes. They're having students actually stigmatize themselves.
Right. It's absolutely ludicrous. I was looking at, I watched a documentary last night knowing we would talk today. I don't know if you know of Saul Alinsky. So he created, you know, the 13 rules, and speaking back to religion, he dedicated his book to Lucifer. And Lucifer, you know, like one of his quotes, I don't know it exactly, it's on my phone, but he basically said, like, when you can find one radical that can basically totally go against God, then that radical will become, like, create his own kingdom. And it's like, okay, well, this is the guy that started this whole movement. And then you look at the fist, right? The closed fist, that's representing the CRT movement, the Black Lives Matter movement, the Chinese communists. It's basically the fist, that is the communist, like, sign. So that's the sign from, like, back historically. Why are we thinking that this is anything different? This is just another way. When you teach children hate, regardless if you tell them it's not okay or it's okay, if you teach them, empower them, and you teach them the good of maybe, like, the struggles, you know, right? We can't be ignorant to what's happened in our history. Right. But if we teach them the positive of what came out of those things, then that's what they're going to learn. But if you teach them the negative and make them believe that it exists today, then they're going to naturally learn to hate each other.
Yeah, no, exactly right. And I have told people this a lot, that, hey guys, listen, we're in bad shape here. We've got social emotional learning. We already know that. But we've also got critical race theory that's mandated from the top down. That means even if a school district wanted to get rid of it, they wouldn't be able to. And, you know, that's met with some skepticism. So let me put this to bed again tonight. What you are looking at, folks, you are looking at the current social studies standards right here.
And you know what's weird? Like, social studies, like, why is it not American studies?
Yeah, I mean, social studies has always been, you know, inherently left wing, if you will.
Social.
That's right. Exemplifying ways have demonstrated resistance, resilience. That doesn't sound bad. To inequities, injustice, and discrimination with the American system of government over time. Nowhere does it say how many people that we've liberated, right, from tyrannical oppression. Nothing like that. Compare how some groups in American society have been benefited from economic policies, while others have been systematically denied the same benefits. Guys, you are looking at the state social studies standards. That's K through 12. K through 12 is what you're looking at.
And, you know, if people want to know, I mean, there's states that are banning these things. So it's possible to do it, but it starts at our state level.
It starts at the state. Everything starts at the state level. So for all of you guys, and hey, love you to pieces, man. You're running for school board, you're making it happen. I want you to know that you're going to have to push back against the state. The state makes the standards. The state, to a large extent, trains the teachers. The state makes accountability systems and makes sure teachers are teaching right here what's up on the screen. Compare how competing historical narratives of various turning points portray individuals and groups, including marginalized people. This is what we're looking at now. I submit to you even more proof. This, I need to credit Dr. Terry Stoops over at the Locke Foundation for this bit of work. Did a fantastic job breaking this down. This is the before and after. This is 4th grade history. Before, la, 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 everything's cool, hunky-dory. Explain the ways in which various peoples and groups have contributed to change and innovation. Contributed. And then after, explain the experiences and achievements of minorities, indigenous people, groups, and marginalized people has contributed to change. It can't be just people, Adina.
Right. And that's the thing is when you can see things divided and in a segregated form, then that is racism. When you see we the people as we the people and not we the people that are and then XY. No, it's like we as one. And that's the problem. That's ludicrous. That's
Marxism, that intersectionality. So guys, and I have to apologize to you. When I first presented this slide, I actually zooted out the little systemic racism because Catherine Truitt made a promise to me and every other constituent that she would personally remove the word systemic racism, but she didn't do it. So explain how systemic racism, that means every system in America is racist. Every system, explain how every system in America is racist. Oppression and discrimination of indigenous people, racial minorities, and other marginalized groups have impacted quality and power in America. What you're looking at, this is mandated. Right here is mandated from the state down that kids have to be taught this, so they'll be questioned on it. Explain how slavery, xenophobia, disenfranchisement, please help me, ethnocentrism, intolerance have affected individuals through groups in modern history. Oppression, oppression, oppression.
Yep.
Grade 7, Adina, before. Explain how injustices and responses to those injustices have shaped North Carolina over time. I think that's a fair examination. I think we understand that. We haven't always held ourselves up to American exceptionalism. And I would say the Democrats haven't always held themselves up. They are the party of slavery. Let's not forget. They were the ones burning everything down to the ground during the Wilmington Massacre, etc. But I digress. Explain how slavery, segregation, voter suppression, reconcentration, and other discriminatory practices have been used to suppress and exploit certain groups. Now, that is inherently political, and you know this with Marxism, and we're not in a pre-revolution, we're in it, but we understand that confessions and guilting is an inherent part of entering into the stage of communism. Isn't that right?
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, I really can't believe that what you just read. It's absolutely insane.
Yeah, these are the North Carolina social studies standards.
Social studies.
So there are 4 states now in the country that have critical race theory from the top down. California was the first because we all heard about ethnic studies, right? Oh my God, it's terrible. And it is terrible, but it was only for high school. Then North Carolina came around and said, K through 12, we're going to teach you critical race theory. Then Illinois came around and said, we're going to be just teaching the teachers this stuff. So it's really, North Carolina is probably the most radical education system that we've seen in the country.
Well, and I mean, I go to the Wake County school board meetings and I watch these parents read the books. I mean, like, I'm like, I can't even listen to this. Like, this is like way beyond my, what I would even read ever. And I mean, these board members are looking with no face expression. I'm like, my jaw is dropping when I'm hearing these like sexual things. And like, it's insanity what's in these books. And there's no expression to it. So it's like, they've already accepted they've accepted the fact that these books are there and available. And it's absolutely insane. So it's like, they have no desire to remove them. There's actually one parent that he like followed the whole process at Wake County, and he tried everything that was like step-by-step procedure, and they just shut him down. Even the Wake County sheriff made a comment about it, which that was surprising. And even then, they just shut him down. And I think like if parents don't stand up in unity, and like they need masses of parents to stand up. If there's 1.2 million people in Wake County, we need like 98% of those people. We just need to stand up to it, because otherwise they've accepted it. So if people, you and I can talk about it, but if people don't actually act on it right now, those books are there to stay. And hey, guess what? Your kids are in school 13 years, 7 hours a day. That's a long time to like get literally just ruined.
Yeah, it is. It definitely is. And look, we've got I harp on this a lot. We've got a legislature which has some members are better than others, of course, but a lot of the Republicans who have the duty, the responsibility for oversight, the responsibility to say, hey, listen, we're going to take the curriculum back. They haven't done that. Now we're hoping that they will do this next session, but the oversight, Adina, is not happening.
Well, look, here's the thing. Our House majority is Republican. So, you know, we talk so much about like why, like begging or asking the Democrats to vote yes on things. We actually don't need them to. We just need the Republicans to follow through on their oath and promises to the people, because our state house is majority Republican. Yep. And if they would actually stand in unity, we could get a lot of this done. And then, you know, for me, from the federal level, we need to like find a way to eliminate like all the federal funding that's funding these public schools. That's how these things are being implemented. So like the federal level, the federal level does not need to have as much involvement in the education system as it does, because that just brings in all the nonprofits and the, you know, the boards, the education associations and all of those. And that's how the whole system was corrupted to begin with. So like we need to, like, I stand for that, where it's like the federal government does not need to have such an involvement, AKA funding and controlling the school system. That's the parents and it's local, and that's what it needs to be.
Right. No, I totally agree. And so our group has really sought over the last year and how many months, I don't know, to act as sort of a firewall between the local school districts and definitely the feds. We don't want DC in our classrooms, but the state as well. And a lot of people, you know, you ask your average Democrat, hey, where's the center of power, the center of gravity, if you will, for the public school system? And they'll in unison, they'll tell you at the legislature. But Republicans, since we're new to this reform game, we don't know. Some people say, okay, our school board, the governor, teachers, but it's actually at the state house. It's actually there. It's actually also the DPI. Why? Because the DPI has the power to, and the duty to consent and advise. They have the duty to make sure that they are saying their piece and, hey, we're not learning, we need to have this out. They bring up contracts. They choose vendors, to your point. We've got a lot of very, very radical vendors that are pushing this crap. DPI is also training the teachers, right? Enforcing these standards. So there's a lot of passing the buck, Adina.
Yep. And I'll tell you, there's some real fearless, like I'm usually in the legislative office when they're voting on anything educational related. And like, there's some real amazing House representatives, like, you know, John Hart is there, but there's not enough of them. And so it's like, if there were enough of them, I mean, that's why I'm running for federal, because I feel like there's not enough of us there either, but.
No, there's not. No, there's not. And we have a Republican, we always harp on this, she's a state superintendent and she is putting these things forward and then blaming others. We need legislators. I don't care what side of the aisle you're on. Take responsibility for what you're doing, right?
Yep.
Not enough of that. So tell us what you're running for.
Yeah, so I'm running for U.S. House of Representatives, the sacrifice district number 2, which is Wake County, that, you know, kind of cut through the middle and the north part of Wake County. But I laugh, and I also, like, all seriousness, you know, I feel like Wake County is the largest in population, and obviously the leader in the education system and everything else that follows with it. And so right now we have a radical Democrat, you know, whatever you want to call her, that's running. And I looked at the recent spending bill that she got the budget of Wake County, and the things that she's putting,
Deborah Ross.
Yeah, Deborah Ross. And the things that, you know, she's applying the money to, again, it goes back into the education system, but it's not going into what it needs to go. And how involved is she that she can, you know, make these calls? She's not. It's all these just elite groups. And that's the things that, you know, I want to be able to go in. I mean, I'm at the school board meetings. And so, yeah, like I said, I'm in the Wake County District, #2, US Congress, and it's obviously majority, you know, quote unquote Democrat. However, it's really majority unaffiliated. And what that means to me is that the people in Wake County want to see change. They want somebody that's going to not tell them what they can do, but someone that's going to go to DC and fight to protect the things that are in place, which is our Constitution, our freedom, and the things that are there for us to exercise on and not be taken from us, which the radicals are trying to destroy everything that we've worked so hard for and what our founding fathers worked hard for. So we have to win.
Absolutely. I mean, so are you seeing that we are, how far along the communism continuum are we?
I say too far, but realistically, I mean, I watched so many documentaries and things that are from like 2010, and even then they're like, we can still save it, but I feel like we were too far when 2020 happened, honestly, because leading up to 2020, we knew so much. However, with that being said, I think that if we are able to wake up, like really wake up and say, you know what, enough is enough. We know our constitutional rights. We're going to stand up, and we are just going to stand solid like a border, and we're not going to allow this to continue on, and know that, hey, every board member takes an oath, they're bonded, like we have the power. But if we don't exercise it, we're going to stay down too far. And the longer that we keep this going, they're not going to stop. There's no such thing as the light at the end of the tunnel. The light at the end of the tunnel is us waking up. So I think we've been too far down the road. We can still stop it, but if we don't, it's only going to get worse. And the kids have literally been tortured for 2 years. 2 years of basically their freedom and liberty has been stripped away from them, and they've been introduced to a world that we never want to see continue on.
Right. So we're pretty far done. And so, you know, what we've been asking everyone to do is to call your reps in your own area and tell them, listen, you know, if you're happy with them, great. I mean, give them extra support. But if you're not, you know, let them know, look and see if they've got a primary candidate, right? If you're not happy, but let them know that the days is sitting on your hands while we're out here fighting the battles. And then you use us right by the election to do your bidding. Those days are over. That's gone. You either serve the people. In fact, you've got one job. Your only job is to serve your constituents. How am I wrong?
You're a public servant. That is your job. And you know what? I'll even take that further. Look up your representatives at the state level and at the federal level, and don't give them the benefit of the doubt. If they've not done a job that's been fulfilling to you, don't trust that they will. Just like with the Free the Smiles. You know, a lot of the parents reached out to me and said, you know, we think the Democrats will vote yes. And I said, no, they're not going to. This is their plan. Don't give them the benefit of the doubt. Go to them as if you're a mama bear and you're ready to attack. That's what these people need. That's just what they need. They think that they won, and that the parents, what they didn't expect is for the parents to stand up. And I'm so proud of the parents, because they thought that this plan was going to go on, and ESSER Funds 3, which ties into the CRT as well, and the funding for the mental, you know, the mental needs of the kids. But like, basically they were like, you know, ESSER Funds 3 came out. ESSER Funds 3, out of $333 million in Wake County, the third round was $214,000. That's what, 60% of the total amount at the end. I mean, if that's not a plan, I don't know what is. And the funds are until 2024. And when they realize that, clearly they see that the parents are standing up, and they're going to send that money back if they don't, you know, step up. And they know they're going to have to send the money back, but they're going to use it towards CRT and towards, you know, mental health issues and all the things to destroy our education system even more in the kids.
We see that happening now. I mean, they're setting up mental health clinics inside of the schools. Government shrinks are coming in. That is the job of a parent. That is not the job of the government. I don't know how many times I have to tell our young people this, Adina, but yeah, you're a breath of fresh air to talk to. Thank you for coming on, because I knew that you'd be able to see the parallels that we're talking about if you were able to get your eyes on exactly the kind of curriculum that's being pushed in our classrooms.
Yep, absolutely. And parents should stand up and tell and fight for the fact that the kids need to learn CRT, the Constitution Restoration Training. Because here's the thing, if kids,
So
Constitution, go ahead.
CRT,
CRT.
restitution, or training. So this is a different CRT, guys. Explain to us what this is.
Yeah, so Constitution restoration training to me is the kids knowing their rights, right? Because right now, the kids are not, they have no clue what the Constitution is. They don't even know what it looks like, and they're not being taught, not even on Constitution Day. And so if we replace, you know, all the hate and everything that they're learning right now that's destroying them and everything else, we need to teach them a curriculum on the Constitution, the federal, you know, the United States Constitution, the state Constitution. If those children sitting in those seats knew their rights, I can bet my bottom dollar on the fact that they would not be wearing masks, that they would not be bowing down to the teachers, that they would not follow the rules. And you know what? It is we, the people, that get to control these types of situations. And not so that we can be brash and obnoxious. It's so that we don't let the government take advantage of us like they are today. And so Constitution, like, it needs to be restored. That's why it's restoration. Our Constitution, the only time that it's being used right now, it's against us, not for us. And so we need to take that back, but it needs to start with the kids.
Right. No, I totally agree. All right. Well, this is great talking to you. We're going to follow up with you in a few weeks and see how your race is going and probably get you to comment on something else that's been crazy.
Sounds good. Thank you for having me.